we got Jackie in Mississippi wants to talk about the case for idealism from George Berkeley. Well, that sounds pretty interesting to me, Jackie. What are your thoughts? You are talking with SR and Armin.
Oh, how are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
So basically, in this, I'm going to try and present why I think idealism as a metaphysical system makes the most sense, and why I think the specific subjective idealism I'm presenting here is best integrates with the belief in the traditional view of God. So basically, the premises of Berkeley's argument is SAS percipit to be is to be perceived, and the reason for this is simple. What does it mean for something to exist? Well, all correlates of existence that we can think of or cognitively process involve our perception, right? We can't think of something without space and time. And space and time, we know from Kant, are intuitions, and we can't think without causality. We know from Kant that's a category, and color, etc., are all representations in the mind.
No, wait. That doesn't necessarily. That doesn't define existence itself, right? Just because when we experience something, we say that it exists. It doesn't mean that we're also claiming that without our experience, it doesn't exist, right? Like, that doesn't necessarily follow. Without our perception, like, just because for us to claim that something exists, we rely on our perception. That is true. But that doesn't necessarily show that without our perception, those things won't exist.
Well, yes, because can you define existence?
To be.
Okay, define to be.
Well, I mean, if you keep going to the, I mean,
what does that get us?
If you keep going there, we're going to get to
all words. All words are circular.
No, at some point you're going to get to a point where we just understand what we're talking about, but then the words will, I mean, when we all understand what we're talking about, at some point, if I keep asking you, we'll define this, you're going to hit a wall. What does that show? I mean, I could do that. You're using perception as a way to define existence. I could do the same thing with perception.
Right.
What does it mean to perceive? And then once you have a definition for that, I could like, okay, what does that mean? And what does that mean? And at the end of the day, your definition of you're defining to be as perceiving. Okay. Well, I could do the same thing you're doing with the word to be with the word perceiving.
Wait, so you would agree with me that to be is to be perceived? I'm confused.
No, I'm saying that just because language is limited, and eventually when you keep asking, what does this mean? What does this mean? We're going to hit the wall. That doesn't mean that to be you can reduce the definition of to be with perception.
Right.
Well, but here's what I would say. I can define what it means to be in perception, which is to be spatiotemporal. To be is to have the categories of causality, extension, identity, and to be involves certain qualia like sound, touch, and
does any of that change if there is no perception? Does any of that change if there is no perception? Does the characteristics and qualities of the rock and the zebra change if nothing else looks at them?
Well, if there is nothing to look at the rock or the rock and the zebra don't exist because we have no evidence.
If all life disappears off this earth right now, Jackie, all life disappears off this earth right now. There is no conscious agent, no mind or spirit, as Berkeley calls it. But if all of that disappears, are you telling me that the free thought library that I have personally pissed in the bathroom at, that doesn't exist anymore? Is that really what you believe?
Well, it would still exist because it would still be perceived in the mind of God.
There you go. So I'm super glad that we got there super quickly, because here's the problem with Berkeley's idealism. It's circular, because exactly what you just said there. The reason that Berkeley justifies his understanding of idealism is because there's always a mind watching. And the last thing that he says in the construction of the argument is that it's God. And then you go, well, gosh, that doesn't really make any sense. How's God real? And he goes, well, because idealism's real. Do you see how it falls?
And Jackie, can you show us why this is impossible? Let's say, Jackie, just let's assume, okay, I'm going to give you a world and tell me why this is impossible, okay? This is our world before humans are on our planet. Like, let's say that we have a universe that has just came into being, and there are no conscious mind on it yet. Okay, we haven't got to a point in this universe that there's anything that perceives, right? And let's also assume that the universe has no, the universe has no God, okay? And then there are rocks, we have planets, okay? We have some early form of stars maybe being created. Tell me why this is impossible. There's nothing here that is doing any perception at all. Tell me why you know that this, what I just described, is impossible.
Well, how do you know there's rocks or planets or whatever?
How do you know that this is impossible?
Because
you don't need to know. Okay, so your question is, how would you know? I'm not claiming knowledge. Okay? No. Jackie, you're adding the requirement. I don't need to know. Okay, so how do you know? I didn't claim knowledge. There is no knowledge. There is no knowledge of this universe. There is no perception of this universe, and therefore there's no knowledge of this universe. Why is this scenario impossible?
Because all of the concepts you use, which are planets, rocks, etc., have all been formed using perception.
No. The description of them have been used. Perception is required for us to describe those things, not for the. You need to show that beyond describing them, perception is also required for their existence, right? So a planet, for it to be described by somebody, it requires to be perceived first and then to describe it. So the description of a planet requires somebody to perceive it, but its very existence, you haven't demonstrated that it requires perception. Well, and even if you're right, Jackie, even if we lived in a world where perception was required for existence, then we live in a world that doesn't make a goddamn difference, because we live in a world that is almost identical to a world where perception was not required for existence. So even if you were right, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it would matter because it would demonstrate the existence of God.
But that's circular.
Right. That's what I'm right. That's why there's a problem, Jackie. Don't you get it? Don't you get it, man? That's the problem, is that you're using the idealism to get to proving the existence of a God, but the idealism only works by accepting that there has to be a spirit that is infinite, that is always watching, because we have way too much fucking justification. We cannot help it unless receiving massive structural cognitive damage to the squishy lump inside our head. Whether I look at that fucking toilet in the free thought library or not, I know it's still there, because object permanence is a thing. It's real, man. It is real.
God is making that object permanent, because God is watching your toilet for you, so it doesn't go missing.
God watches you pee.
Guys, thank you, God, for watching my toilet when I'm not looking at it, so that you can make sure that it's there when I'm back. Okay, that's what we're arguing here. That's ridiculous.
Yes. Jackie.
But you go ahead.
Go ahead.
The reason I said God was because of the fact that Armin said it wouldn't make a difference if idealism were true. I'm saying the difference it makes is that if God exists, there's all sorts of applications.
But if idealism can't
Jackie,
get you there.
The point is that if that's an argument for God, then the fact that an identical universe without that would work perfectly, then my universe would be proof for God's non-existence. Do you understand? So we have a universe that runs either way perfectly the same. And because one option could be that everything is there because God is perceiving it, because we also have an option that everything is there regardless of somebody perceiving it, then based on your standard, my argument would be proof of God's lack of existence. Do you understand how this works both ways if we were using your metrics?
But I disagree. But I disagreed that that's an option to not have everything rely on perception, because you can't meaningfully define existence without perception. All definitions are predicates.
You haven't shown that existence requires our ability to define things. We're talking about the existence of a universe independent of a mind, and then you are limiting it to the capabilities of a mind for us to be able to perceive it or not. The word definition, the word perception, these are limited to a mind. When the question is, can these things exist without a human mind, then your argument cannot be reduced to the capabilities of a mind. Do you understand how that's contradictory?
I'm just making an argument from linguistic meaningfulness. Existence without...
But linguistic, so Jackie, again, that's the problem. Linguistic, that you're using language, which is already been bound. You're already talking about something that is limited to a mind. Language is created by a mind. So if you are trying to work within this framework, you cannot answer my question of why can these things exist completely outside of all of these frameworks? If you show me that language fails to do this and that, well, language is a product of a mind. I'm talking about these things existing outside of a mind altogether.
Well, so could I ask a quick question about your position?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, are you positing as like an axiom or as like a starting point the existence of a real that people like Jacques Lacan and the modern Lebovian school, with people like Slavoj Žižek and Alenka Zupakic and Mladen Dolar, talk about the Lacanian real that exists beyond the imaginary and the symbolic?
We don't have to posit anything at all right here, just to point out the flaw in what you have said today. We don't have to have a perfect definition of real or anything. We don't have to have that. You didn't like the definition of existence that we gave. That's fine. We can utilize your definition, and we can go with you insofar as it seems justified to have that type of understanding of what we mean when we use that word. We know that words are not perfect. They don't accurately capture every single aspect of what is existence around us, but we get closer to it the best we can. But again, the problem with idealism, and it's not me saying it, there's a lot of people that have talked about this, right? I mean, for instance, how many objections did George Berkeley first list out when he wrote this down? Do you know? He listed a certain number. How many did he say? These are objections that are obviously going to be thrown against. Now, he answers them, but how many did he list?
I don't remember.
That's okay. I didn't either. I had to go check. Do you really think, Jackie, you and I have done enough to understand this argument? If we don't even know that?
Well, I don't think just because there are possible objections necessarily invalidates you.
I don't think either of us have done enough to understand this topic if neither of us seemingly are familiar with the objections that the man who wrote the fucking book on it posited initially. I think that's a problem, and I think you and I should look at that and both say together, oh shit, maybe we should both get a little bit more knowledgeable on this. I absolutely have more to learn when it comes to idealism. But something that I heard that seems to really be a major problem is the first thing I presented to you, is that it's circular. Because the only way idealism works is if God is real and then idealism is used to prove God's existence. That's not a sound argument, man. Go ahead, Armin.
Can I make a suggestion to Jackie? Jackie, you know, when we were having a normal conversation and we were trying to understand you and you were trying to understand us, I just want to give a suggestion. It gives a, I'm not necessarily saying that's what you're doing, but you know how sometimes like the villain in the movie, they drop a smoke bomb because they see that they cannot win this and they run away. When you get to a point where you just give a whole bunch of names really fast after each other, I think the audience will get the impression that you just lost some confidence and you're just trying to demonstrate that I know a lot, and let me just come up with a list of names of philosophers really fast to just hide my lack of confidence, to show people that I'm actually not smart and I'm not being outdone by these people here. And I think it's just not a good look, and it doesn't actually move the conversation forward when you do that. So I suggest you not doing that. You know, it's not a good look, and a lot of people feel like it's a desperate attempt to look smart. So that's just a suggestion that I have for future conversations.
I don't know what specifically you're referring to, but I would say to you, secularity. I understand what you're saying about trying to learn more. It just seems like unless you can actually provide a counter argument, it just sounds like you're arbitrarily doubting what I would say is a pretty strong premise.
What was my objection, Jackie? I know you can do this. I'm pretty positive I've talked to you before, haven't we? We've been on the phone before, right, Jackie?
Yes.
What was my objection? What did I say is the problem with idealism? It was very clear.
You're arguing that it is circular because it presupposes God's existence in order to prove idealism. Idealism
there you go, Jackie. There you go. So hang on, Jackie. Hang on, Jackie. So let's just be clear. I'm not just hand-waving away this argument. I'm not just saying I'm not convinced. I'm saying when you present this to me, you have walked up to me with blueprints to build a shed. And what I'm telling you is that I see the door and I see the roof, but there is clearly siding that is not there. That is what I have said. That is the honest representation of what I've said. Now, happy to admit, like, hey, man, maybe you could explain that a little better, SR, or maybe you could provide more critiques to the argument. Totally fine. Absolutely fine. Happy to say once again, there's a lot here that I need to learn. But the argument that I provided specifically is that based on this construction that you've been talking about, it's circular. And that is something that I have heard many people say. Go ahead.
No, yeah, let me actually, can I help, Jackie, just a second. Let me see if SR, if I understand for people why this is circular. Okay, let me know if this, okay? So people, the claim is that the material world does not exist. Everything is a perception. If this exists here, it only exists because me or something else, you guys and me, are here to perceive it.
Right.
And then that's what idealists are saying. And then we will come like, okay, so what about things like in my washroom, I have a toilet. Nobody's looking at that. Are you guys are saying that right now, because that is not being perceived, that the toilet doesn't exist? So the idealists were like, no, actually, I created a problem here, and I'm not going to solve it with adding God to this problem. But then they're hoping that you forget that this wasn't a problem originally. You created the problem that wasn't there that you're trying to solve with adding this God. So you cause a problem, and then you're trying to solve the problem with your imaginary God. So the question that we ask idealists is like, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe everything needs perception to exist, but can you show it to us? Can you show us that it's impossible for these things to exist without anyone perceiving it? And they're like, yes, we show it by making the claim that everything exists because God is perceiving it. So everything. So where did the original came from? The original claim is nothing exists because of without perception, but everything exists without our perception because I just added an imaginary God that is perceiving everything to solve this problem. So basically everything exists all the time, even without our perception, because I just added an imaginary solution to the problem that didn't even exist at the beginning. I mean, that is idiot. Yeah.
But my claim
all-encompassing
is not that,
observer. Go ahead, Jack.
I think my claim is not, or my argument is not, that we can prove idealism is true because we know God exists to perceive everything. My claim is we can prove idealism is true because of the utter meaninglessness of the term and predicates we have of existence without consciousness.
If we do not have a way to describe the object in Armin's bathroom, does that have any bearing whatsoever on the existence of that object? Yes or no?
Yes. I would say it's logically meaningless to say something exists without any predicates that consciousness puts on it.
But that doesn't make any sense, man. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, honestly.
Actually, if that is true, then why don't you just remove God as well and just say my washroom does not exist when we're not looking at it? Why do you even add a God?
It's actually
here?
a simpler answer. It's actually more
Jackie,
parsimonious.
let's say you're right. Everything exists only with perception, and there is no God. And my toilet just stopped existing without us looking at it. So now we don't need a God.
I would say object permanence points to an independent human independence.
So why does object? So you're saying object permanence proves God. I say object permanence proves the existence without our perception. Like, why can't it? Why is the only explanation for object permanence God? Why cannot the object permanence be the evidence that you were looking for things existing behind our perception?
Because I can define and describe God, and you can't define or describe objects without reference to predicates that human beings
do that. Hold up. Wait. Stop. Just go ahead and define and describe God then. That's fascinating. I'd love to hear what that description is.
The omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent basis for the existence of the natural world.
So what are the standard objections that have been talked about for a really long time to anything omni? What are those? What are those, Jackie?
The main criticism of omnibenevolence is the so-called problem of evil, which I believe is resolved.
But you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through all that explanation. Let's just go through why nobody, Jackie, uses the omni terms anymore, okay? And everybody uses the terms maximally. What are the other reasons that people have completely stepped away from that language decades ago? Why are they not using that anymore, Jackie?
So the first is the problem of evil. The second is the paradox of omnipotence, right? Can God create a rock so heavy he can't lift it? And,
is it a paradox or is it actually logically impossible? Is it just something that seems like maybe it doesn't work, or does it literally violate the understandings that everybody is pinning fucking everything on? George Berkeley is pinning his understanding of ideal. Does omnipotence just seem a little weird, or does it literally break the fucking rules?
I believe it just seems weird. I don't believe it's actually logically impossible.
Well, I would say there's a shit ton of people who believe in God that flat out disagree with you, Jackie, and you need to go talk with them first. Look, man, I like talking with you, Jackie. I've enjoyed having conversations, and I think actually we have made progress, and I do apologize. I've drank a lot of fucking lemons today, and I thought this chat liked me a little bit more than they apparently do. So I'm a little testy. I'll give you that, okay? I really don't feel like you have looked into this a lot. And that's sad, because I feel like you have a great desire to learn. And I do too. and I want to learn more on this, please go listen to some people who specifically talk about why idealism doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because there's a good few of them. Graham Oppy is one that I really like. I actually think there's a good discussion with this guy, Dr. Lance Bush. He's talked about it a lot too. He's not a big fan of it, it sounds like. Please call us back after doing that, and let's talk about this a little bit more. But if this is circular, if you got to have God to prove idealism, and then idealism proves God because he's got to be there to prove idealism, that's a problem. That's just a problem, Jackie. So that has to be addressed first. Go ahead, Armin, then we'll wrap it up. We'll get out of here.
No, we could wrap. We could say goodbye to Jackie.
Well,
yeah,
Jackie,
but I just wanted to mention how much progress we have made. That this is the arguments that theists have to make, right? I mean, the idea. So we have gotten to the point of theistic arguments where I say, to show that there is a God, I'm saying like, hey guys, look at this. You're making this exist by looking at it. And now it's under the table and I'm not seeing it and you guys are not seeing it. And the reason why there is a God is because we need God to look at that thing for it to continue to exist. And that's why we know there is a God. Okay. So by the way, I'm thinking about this. What is more realistic? The fact that you're not seeing this, okay, and we believe that that continues to exist. Me and Asar at least think that that's still there, even though we're not seeing it. Is that because things exist independent of our perception? Right? That's a simplified explanation for why that is still there? Or is it because Jesus looks at it for it to maintain its, object permanence? What is the more simple explanation between these two? But I think like this shows the desperation of theistic arguments, that Jesus needs to look at my toilet for it to remain there next time I want to go poop. That shows that how far we have come, right? And also the only argument they have is a linguistic argument, that I cannot come up with words to get to the very essence of describing with human language what it means to be, because I fail to do that. But I can use language to explain perception. Look how self-centered we humans are, that our capability of the ability of language is used as an indication of what is there and what is not there. I mean, that's quite obvious.
Armin.
Yeah.
Jackie, seriously, I appreciate talking to you. I really do. Again, I apologize. I got a little spicy. Fuckers in the chat keep making me. They want me to drink more fucking lemon juice. I don't know what's wrong with them. Hey, call us back. Please go watch a little bit. Like I said, Graham Oppy's one that comes to my mind. I don't know that Alex Malpass has a lot on idealism, but I could just be missing that. But yeah, go check some of that stuff out and call us back and let's talk some more on this, because I think there's a lot here. But I'm happy to admit, like, I need to learn more on this stuff too. But it's going to take a lot to get over that circular issue in the argument for me. So, but yeah, thank you so much, Jackie. We really, really appreciate you.